Welcome to Intuition Unleashed, a revolution in personal liberation. The go-to podcast that helps you access intuitive guidance combined with mental health and spirituality. Let your intuition guide you and unlock a life of true liberation. And now your host, Becc Nelson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Intuition Unleashed. I'm so happy to have you here. We have a really special guest today, and I'm going to explain to you why in just a minute. So my guest today is Dr. Debra Snyder. Hi, Deb.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
This is an amazing story. I love this lady, and let me tell you why. And I already said this story to Deb. So 15 years ago, right? That sounds like forever. I feel so old now, Deb. 15 years ago, we were at, now everybody knows, it's no secret. I was at a convention at Twin River Casino, it's not even Twin River Casino anymore, in Lincoln, Rhode Island. It's now, did you know it changed hands? It's owned by one of the bigger companies now. Anyway, so I was at a health convention there, and I was there representing my business, Hope Counseling. We had some flyers on the table, and I should note, my husband was also with me, Ed, because he also owns the company. So we were kind of talking to people, and we decided that we were going to take a little break and walk away from the table. Now, pertinent to this story is at the time we had a 15-year-old daughter who is now, blow your mind, 30. So at the time, as you can imagine, parenting a 15-year-old, and a 15-year-old can be very challenging. We were going through some very difficult stuff with her, and we were sort of like not really there. So we decided to take a break from our booth, and we walk around, and of course we meet Dr. Deb Snyder, who at that time you had just published your book at that point.
Yes, I did that year.
One of your books, because now you have several since then. So that year you had published your book, and you had a booth there, and you were kind of talking to some people, and I was kind of holding your book, looking, like, oh, this is really interesting. Now, I should also mention at the time, I had not had my own spiritual awakening. I was sort of denying it. You looked at us without really knowing us at all from Adam, and you said, I have been giving this book out, selling this book to people all day long, and I just feel like I'm actually supposed to give you this book. So you literally handed it to me, or to us. You signed it, and then kind of walked away, and you started to talk to other people. And my husband and I were looking at each other like, what just happened? Because we were, and I still have
it. Yay.
But mine is special because you gave it to me. And I get chills every time I tell this story, Deb, because ever since then, this book is about connecting with children that are not able to necessarily have a conversation with you, or not just children, but people. And that just really touched me at that time, because we had no idea. I had no idea what intuition was at that point, or not to the level that I certainly do now, obviously, because I now teach it and mentor it and that sort of thing. So I always told myself that I really, if somebody touches you, I really feel like it's important for you to let that person know that the impact that they've had on your life, because I would really want somebody to do that for me as well, because that makes you feel like some days when you're having a hard day, or like, am I doing the right work? That really makes you feel like, okay, this is exactly why I do this. So thank you for that. And ever since that happened, I said, someday I feel like I'm going to try to connect with her. And so a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, you know what? It's time. It's time for me to bring in Dr. Snyder, because I think that other children really need to benefit from the experience that you had. So let me tell, that's the story. And so thank you very much for being that influence on my life. And I hope that this episode is going to have that same impact for other people, and that other people also message you. Deb, you are an inspirational lady, because you are a public speaker. You're an intuitive consultant. You have not just this book, but you have several books now that involve intuition. One is involving business practices as well, because prior to doing the work that you do now, you were in the corporate world.
That's correct.
The experiences that you had that we're going to share today during our episode are experiences that actually pulled you away from the corporate world to do the work that is now driven by your heart. You had, I'm getting all kinds of chills today. These are our validations that we're on the right path, and we're, touching the right stuff. And so you then actually, after that experience, or during the time that you sort of had your awakening, was all around the birth of your daughter, Reagan.
Correct.
Reagan or Reagan?
It's Reagan. Yes.
Reagan. Okay. And the whole experience that you had with her that we're going to share today led to you doing the work that you do now, but it also led to you getting a PhD in metaphysics and spirituality and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So today we're going to teach, so that she was empowered to kind of help listen to her own inner wisdom, to be able to connect more deeply with her children. And we want to be able to share that with how people can also have that experience, because you have a whole process that you share in your book that you've developed to be able to do that, no matter what the diagnosis or the circumstances. So we're going to share that today. So I am so honored. Believe me, it's like full circle. I'm so honored to have you here today. We've had some conversations since then, and I'm like, oh, she's also a really awesome person that I want to hang out with. She's like, come hang out at my house. I'm like, yes, we could talk for hours. So
we could. Well, thank you so much, Becc, for having me. And it is, as anyone could imagine, how heartwarming to hear that those micro connections that you make with people a decade and a half ago, especially during that time when my book was first launched. I'm everywhere. I was all over the place, all over cities, but it's always wonderful to stay in New England. And of course, I'm a New Englander, I'm a Mainer. And you mentioned the casino. I don't do many events at casinos. So it was certainly very memorable. I was there with my best friend and we were having a good time. And I did win money that night, which we blew on a fabulous dinner. Of course, you know, when in Rome, when in a casino, you have a little fun. So we had a blast. But it's as poignant for me as it is for you, because even all these years later, to hear from you again and kind of ignite my own memory of that, and the look on your husband's face, that's what I remembered the most. Is he was like, is this lady weird or what? Which is often the look people give you when you talk about things that's hard to measure, hard to know. How does she know we even are parents? How would she know we even have a struggle? How would she know? I've always felt, no matter what it is that I'm doing, there hit a certain point in my life where I do the work of spirit. So when I get a little hint, whether you want to call it a whisper in your ear, or a sense in your gut, or something to do something, I find it's best when I do it. If I don't do it, I will think, oh, I should have done that. So it's just best. So giving you a book, just having that little tiny conversation that we have, that was something, who knows where it came from? Was it your guides? Was it my guides? Was it just the universe being, oh, these two people will get each other. They'll help each other. You know, it was best just to follow along, and look where it led. So look where you are and what you're doing. So when I got your note a month or so ago, it warmed my heart. And it is nice to know that things that you naturally create, in a method that you try to pass on to others based on your own blood, sweat, and tears, lots of tears. Parents know about lots of tears, that's for sure, that it actually makes a difference. So I'm thrilled to be with you, and I'm happy to share my story and Reagan's story, because this is very much Reagan, my daughter, being the ultimate teacher. And I can launch in right now if you want me to tell everybody a little bit about what got me into it.
Well, this is a signature question that I ask everybody, but it's already a perfect opener because I already know the answer. So everybody sort of has those moments when that the universe gives you that, and during the time that it happens, we're like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And you feel like a victim, and I feel like I have this bad luck. But as you grow and learn, you realize that it was actually a huge opportunity, and sort of becomes a turning point, and it like shifts your perspective. So we've sort of already spoiled the story, but could you?
No, it's no spoiler, because it's just a beautiful awakening. I, like a lot of people, grew up very intuitive. I was from a very intuitive family. My mom, my grandmother, had a dozen children. She knew when things were going to happen. She had this, super radar. So I got to, I got to witness that in action, not so much in any kind of dogma or anything, but just people who knew how to kind of utilize a knowledge you couldn't quite explain. So my whole life I've been that way. I'm the cliched blue-eyed Pisces, who can just sort of naturally attune to some of these things. And I would have fun with it at different points in my life. It was very useful because, one of my friends would be dating some really cute guy and I'd be like, married, and she'd be like, oh, check it, married is right, just simple little things that you kind of have fun with it. Then came Reagan, my beautiful daughter. Um, During my pregnancy with Reagan, everything went really, really beautifully. But I always kind of felt like something was going to be different, something was going to be off. And I didn't quite know what that was. And I would ask people, are you ever worried that things are going to be a little different? And they almost thought I was crazy for even whispering that out loud.
You're
But
jinxing it somehow.
yeah, like whatever, and I'm just like, I had waited to have my daughter. I was 29 when I was pregnant. And so I was so excited and so happy. When Reagan was born, she was born with a very rare brain malformation. It's called microlissencephaly with a genesis of the corpus callosum. And she was given a 2-week life
2
expectancy.
weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh,
I'm going to let our viewers know right away, get you off the hook from being all worried. Reagan will be 26 years old this December. So there's the biggest spoiler there and the best spoiler we could possibly get. So this is a girl who writes her own path and is really good at teaching her mom how to live a heart-centered life. So once Reagan came into our world, of course, it turned everything upside down. As you'd mentioned, I was working in kind of corporate America. I was a insurance adjuster, workers' comp insurance adjuster. Loved my job, loved that kind of life. I'd enjoyed my time in college. I'd done a little bit of everything, but it was, I was into that. And of course, all of a sudden, this little frail bundle that I didn't quite know how long I was going to have came in and just shifted us, gutted us. And I realized at that time that I started getting extra help, extra information. Sometimes it was from her, how she exuded like a calmingness. It's like when we thought too much, when we were in the fear, things would get worse. But when we would kind of quiet ourselves, listen to peaceful music. This was even happening in the hospital right after she was born. We would just naturally feel better. My husband and I were just like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't going to be as bad. And I started just getting insights. But I didn't quite know where it was from because I would call myself even today a skeptical psychic. I like to know. So even now I like to study the science and the theories behind intuition, behind energy. And I'm just always going, you sure? So I just let caution to the wind, they said, and I followed what I naturally felt was for myself and for my family. And I quit my job and I walked away from that to take care of my daughter. At the time, I thought, well, gosh, I don't know how long she's going to be with us. So I'll just take it a day as it comes. And I think anyone who does this other career will attest that it can be beneficial. I went back to waiting tables and tending bar. And when you live on the coast of Maine, which we did at the time, it can be very lucrative as much as working in corporate America. And I found myself spending more time at the ocean, more time, just being able to immerse myself in the natural environment, less time in a cubicle. And I started feeling a little bit more like I did when I was like 16 or 17. That freedom that you have when you don't yet have a mortgage and you're a little bit free to make decisions. So all of a sudden, even though we were climbing a hill, there was things to do, there was worries to be had. We were still getting it done. We were still getting bills paid, things were still happening. But all of a sudden, this other energetic aspect of my life came forth. And that intuition piece just started, happening more at night. So whether it was guidance for her a little, but for me, it became very practical help. Instead of being sort of fun and games, it became practical.
I'm sort of putting you on the spot here, but can you do you have some specific examples of Some things that happened early on?
Well, I'll tell you with Reagan, it's there were situations where like we would be laying in bed at night and I would literally hear a voice that I actually thought it was my husband. Deb, now. And I jumped from my bed. Sorry. Jump from
No,
my
no, like it's so
and I made her jump and go into her. She was just like right around the corner. You know how it is when you have a newborn, and there was her little arm dangling through the slats of the crib, and the little Afghan had kind of gotten covered over her face. And I like ripped the blanket off her, and she was fine. She was completely fine, but she could have easily been smothered. She could have been, it petrified me. But I realized, oh, I've got another set of eyes somewhere. I've got another set of something around me. So that would happen, moments like that, where I would have that inner hearing, that clear audience. We know now as we study a little bit more about energy. And then I would actually have, I had a visitation from my great grandmother and my great aunt that was like, take it easy, relax. All that sort of happened where I could see it, but I couldn't see it. I was sort of in a twilight sleep. And it was just like, instructing me to follow my natural vibration, to follow, take things a little tiny bit at a time. The most compelling thing happened with Reagan, which truly launched me into a life of intuitive parenting and heart glow. Heart glow is my method. So pretty simple, living with a glowing heart. And I'll teach you guys more about that in a little bit. But the thing that pushed me over into realizing this just wasn't being super optimistic was when Reagan was slightly older. She was 2, going on 3, and she had a very serious medical complication. She had a stomach tube placed to help her because when someone's a little bit, when they're a baby and they have developmental challenges, they don't learn to drink out of a cup. All of a sudden, your ability to suck or swallow sort of drops off and you don't know what to replace it with. When people have natural development abilities, you just go right from one to the other and it's a good thing. But with her, she started choking and aspirating and having trouble with liquids. So, and she was losing weight, she was not thriving as well. So the decision had been made that she would have this tube placed, this stomach tube placed. And after the surgery, she just wasn't doing well at all. And they said, oh, special needs kids, they'll bounce back, but it often takes twice as long, 10 times as long. And you could tell they were just trying to make me feel better. And they didn't really know if she was going to make it or not. She was just getting weaker and weaker. So there I sat in the children's hospital alone with Reagan, hooked up to every monitor you can imagine. She was sleeping soundly. And I was sitting on the bench that they make you sleep on, the most uncomfortable thing in the world, and just feeling as low as I could feel. And she said to me, "It's growing in my throat, Mommy." And for the first time, the information was, she called me Mommy. This information was from Reagan herself, not from some etheric place. I was like, whoa. And I said, "Are you talking to me, Angel Baby?" And yes, just flooded my body. Absolutely flooded everything. And you know how you feel when you get the tingles from anything when you hear a
Right
nice
now,
song?
Deb.
It just sort of happens. And I was like, okay, I've got to figure out what it's growing means. What the heck does she mean it's growing? Well, by this stage of my life, I'm pretty much barefoot most of the time, wearing crystals around my neck, t-shirts and jeans. I'd long ago left the corporate stuff. And these doctors thought I was Fruit Loops. And the nurses, however, they trust mothers. They trust parents, and they would say, moms often get it right. Mom, because who's caring for you? The nurses, the people that see and are in and right around you. And, we love doctors too, but a lot of them, they're busy. They've got a lot going on and they're not doing the direct care. They just kind of thought, oh, geez, this lady, what's with her? But I pushed and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and I made them do a swallow study. And in that study, in that scope and swallow study, they learned that somehow, they still have never taken responsibility for this, they overstitched into her esophagus, and it caused scar tissue to grow in her esophagus, blocking her ability to swallow. So it was just something that they had tacked down, and it built up more. So she couldn't swallow. It was growing in her throat. just as she said to me. And I'm like, so what we decided at that point is we changed hospitals. I think any parent would probably do that. And we went, okay, we need a plan. We need to figure this out. Because at this point, my poor daughter was dealing with months of scarring growing in her esophagus. And long story short, she did lose her ability to eat by mouth. You know, she used to love mashed potatoes and squash and all that stuff. But it's now too much of a risk to her because her esophagus, even today, all these years later, if she has a virus or something that makes her swell up, she has trouble. So we have to suction her and all this extra stuff. But we are grateful that she made it through that particular thing. But it made me think, how the heck was she able to do this? And if she can do this and I can hear her, certainly anybody can, because I wasn't doing any special parlor tricks. I wasn't lighting candles and doing all this stuff. It's like there's this girl who doesn't even have measurable intelligence can convey to her mother, this is wrong, intervene and save her own life. So that was it for me, Becc. And I went full force into a life of like learning about energy communication. So that's my big thing. You can wrap it around different words or whatever, but I had to figure out how intuition can be used practically, not parlor tricks, not fun and games, which is fun to do all that stuff too. But this is how it can really help families, especially families of non-communicative children. But this also works great with pets, loved ones of any kind. So do realize that these techniques, energy communication, heart glow, it all works for everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We had a little technical issue here. And as you can see, I'm now on my cell phone instead of my desktop because everything just shut off. Boy, we just love it when we have these little glitches. Deb, you still with me?
I am with you. We blew up the internet. We're fine. We're good.
I was like, my light started flicking and I'm like, maybe Reagan's talking to us right now.
She better not mess with us. No, she's good. She wouldn't do that. She's good.
So it sounds like to me that what was happening is, like you said, it's clear audience. And for those of you that don't know, it means you have a clear hearing. You're hearing a voice, and this kind of we've all sort of experienced that where we're like, did that come from in me, or was that, did I just feel like I heard that? And it's just about tuning into that a little bit more. And that's
Absolutely.
what you start.
I've come to understand in my work at this time I wrote this book, at the time I've written other books, as I've evolved over 15 years. It has been 15 years since Intuitive Parenting was released. But I reread it this week to make sure I was on point with everybody, to make sure. And I stand by every single thing. It is so true. And it's a wonderful introduction for people into energy communication within the family and with those that you love. So yes, my work is based on understanding our subtle energy system, knowing that we can be practical about what we do and that we can actually develop it. So tapping into our own natural abilities and then expanding it further.
Oh, I had to turn off my Wi-Fi now. Not a good time with this. We have a hurricane coming through here. We have the
Well, we can
outskirts of a
always do it
hurricane.
again. We can always
We
do it.
we have the outskirts of a hurricane. My apologies, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, blame the hurricane.
When you so talk you mentioned that this is when you developed the heart glow method. So can
Right.
you talk more about that? And you actually have some of the steps in your book. So can you give us an overview and then
Right. What I recommend people do, and for people who understand intuition and the study of psychism, none of this stuff is totally new to them. What I've bridged for them is talking about how these are practices that can be developed and employed. What makes heart glow a little bit different and intuitive parenting in this sense is that we talk a lot about resonance. So we talk about how the communication is possible when we're on the same vibe with our loved one, whether it be our child or our partner or whoever. So when we're on the same wavelength with them, that's when all things are possible. Most people can relate to that in knowing about energy healing, such as hands-on healing or Reiki healing. There's lots of different methods of healing that use that type of thing. But when we're dealing with communication, so in the book, I draw a little picture, like imagine when we're clinked together, that space in the middle, that's where the magic is possible. So all this stuff is based on scientific information from the Heart Math Institute, from the studies of Rupert Sheldrake. So people like me who kind of want to know the science behind stuff, this book's for you because it talks about, it's not just airy fairy and, oh, that's sweet and that's loving and everything. There are practical things that you can do to make use of this and to increase the resonance with your family so that you can help them. The Heart Glow method itself is more of a philosophy for life. My work now predominantly surrounds my nonprofit. I run the Heart Glow Center in Bridgeton, Maine. So we do holistic education. We have online education called Inner Tapestry, which used to be a holistic publication in New England for years, which was donated to our charity. So we also do local community outreach. We have a devotional garden here on property because for me, it's eternal. Energy's eternal. So communicating with Reagan, who's nonverbal on this planet, is very similar to communicating with your loved one in spirit, which would be considered more what people would know as mediumship. It's all channeling. It doesn't matter. I have communicated with spirit. I've communicated with departed loved ones. I've communicated with my daughter. I communicate with my cats. And I think a lot of people can do that naturally. And I try to enhance people's natural abilities to do it because we can all do it in our own different way. There's no right or no wrong. So that's the thing about intuitive parenting. What isn't intuitive parenting? It's not fixed dogma. It's not unattainable. It is there for everyone to employ to be able to help their families. The biggest hurdle that we all have as parents, and as anyone here on the earth at this right now, is getting out of the chaos, is getting all that traffic off the line and knowing how to focus in on ourselves. So self-development, focusing on your health, your energetic health will then help your family. So you'd ask me a little bit about, exercises we could do to launch people into this work. Number one thing I recommend is journaling, whether it be written, artistic, or recorded. I say that because not everybody likes to write. It's sometimes better to talk, and it's sometimes better to paint. And it's sometimes better my husband's very, very creative and he loves to work with metals and he loves to do different stuff. And it helps him through and it helps him evolve. And so we need to kind of look and see, oh, what is it that I like? I like working with sea glass, or, oh, I like the written word, or I like the sound of this, I like to sing. So find that journaling in the manner which is your natural place. A lot of people do dream journaling but they can never remember it. So keep a recording, by the bed to record it. As a psychic, as a medium, as a channeler, an intuitive, whatever you want to call me, I have found that I still get some of my most profound shifts in dream state. So when I'm just about ready to wake up to start the day. So I encourage anyone to just sort of start that. Make a commitment to yourself by putting a little book aside, buy yourself. It's fun to get office supplies. We all love it. It's back to school. Get a notebook, get a cool pen. They've got purple, they've got green, do whatever you want. Find something that's just for you in which you can learn to just jot down what you're getting, what you're not getting, what your questions are. As you develop yourself, you will then be able to then make notes about your children. You're a parent, because we're at this stage in life, Beck, you and me, we're at this place where we're not only providing guidance for our children, we're helping out older loved ones. We've got friends that are going through chaos, so having an intuitive heart, living with a heart glow life helps every aspect of your life. And it's not asking you to put aside who you are, your own intellect, your own abilities. I have a lot of strengths that have nothing to do with intuition, but my intuition allows it to all have a glow of clarity about it. And it's always heightened. So it takes a good musician and makes you fabulous. It takes a nice intuitive and makes it transformative. So just know that it's a devotion to yourself. So that's what I encourage people to do. Number one exercise, journaling in a natural, fun form. It's got to be fun. The next thing I recommend is a study, a deep dive into your subtle energy system. And we talk about that. It's even think about what people learned about in yoga class, our chakras, our aura, that kind of thing. So I recommend just a basic study of that. I cover that a little bit in the book. It's just one simple chapter, but it introduces people to what energy centers are, to what our auric field is. There's a ton of free information out there on that. Of course, my book is available libraries everywhere. So if you can't afford to buy it, just go to the library, but you can get it online and anywhere else. But just make a study of what subtle energy is. And once you understand that a little bit more, you can realize how you can alter that. So that the number two exercise I recommend people do is what I call the aura wash technique. And that is, again, is using your creativity to run through your auric field to get the debris out of there. People who are sensitive will find they get physically ill due to their sensitivities when they're in a public place, such as, a crowded store. When I was a younger person, child, I would like kind of suffer in zoos because I was so empathetic for the animals and stuff. It's a little bit better these days now that a lot of those zoos are focused on rehabilitation and natural environments. But when we were growing up, sometimes it was just down sad, to see a monkey in a cage and stuff. And I would suffer as a result of that. So learning some of these techniques and learning how to take care of your aura, learning how to cleanse your system, learning how gets you in a better state of happy receptivity, which will allow you to better connect with others. Once you learn to do it for yourself, that's when you can jump in as a loving parent or partner, friend, and help those that you care about. So the same sort of exercises that I teach, this aura wash technique, you do it on yourself and then you can do it on your kids. That's why, and it's so funny because I'll do something like this on Reagan where I'm just sort of like visualizing waterfall of colors. And again, I encourage people to do it what comes to them, because what might work for me, someone will think, well, that's too girly or that's too Piscean or whatever. So do it your way. I've had a lot of male clients over the years that like to do stuff that look like laser lights and stuff like that, because that's what relates to them. They want to think that they're on the Enterprise or something, hitting the right buttons to clear their aura. Whatever works, it does work. You notice I've got all these colors kind of behind us now, and I chose this background tonight intentionally because it's meant to do that. And people will learn as they study the subtle energy system, the different colors that are associated with the different chakra points and things. And you'll be like, oh, that's why I've always sort of gravitated to that particular color. Oh, that's why I'm repulsed by that particular color. So just sort of do that little bit of work and you'll know. Having time to be still, having time to nurture yourself, you'll be a rock star at this if you just take that time for you. I know how hard it is being a busy parent. I know how hard it is to do hard work. As we talked about, my beautiful Reagan is 25 years old. She's going to be 26 in December. And it's been a hard life. We've almost lost her a few times. There's a few more stories in the book that'll get people where those are explained and how the energetic situation with that. But I encourage you to read that. It's tough stuff, but it's poignant and you'll realize how important it is. But know that this girl has saved her own life several times by being able to communicate with me.
And usually but people don't know if they don't know as much about the clairs, etc. Is that there are several different clairs. It's not just the clair audience.
Right.
And we're not here to necessarily talk about all those, but is that the one that you predominantly is strongest for you, or that's just one that she uses?
I would say for me, my strongest is clairvoyance. So mind's eye pictures has always, and that was been my childhood thing. I'll be honest, I tamped down the mediumship stuff for a long time because I just didn't even quite know where to fit that. Working with profoundly disabled people and families that have a lot of disability in your life, I know a lot of people who've passed away. I know a lot of children who've died, a lot of families that deal with that. And hold that very sacred. So for me, I didn't want to explore my mediumship stuff, which is heavily clairaudient, in a professional way, because I was like, I don't want to hurt anybody. But I realized that, I've been doing intuitive therapy and psychic readings for 25 years now. And my natural ability, it's just a channel, it's just a natural ability. So whether I'm talking to what would be a guide or what would be someone's elder, sometimes you don't know it until it starts flowing in and you realize who you're talking to. So the way I like to look at it is being open to the possibilities. I say that the dogma of fixed belief is more heavy, more burdensome to carry than the light in your own heart. So it's best to just sort of let things unfold. It is a process, it is an evolution. My work with Heartglow is people go, well, what actually is Heartglow? And it is a philosophy. I break it down in the book, and you can go to my charity's website as well and see it. But Heartglow literally is an acronym: honor, empathy, altruism, resonance, trust, gratitude, love, opportunity, and wellness. It's a commitment to each one of those things. So, and it's just a way. My friend and I were joking the other day. It was the anniversary of the movie E.T. And of course,
Yes, that's what I'm
we
thinking
were
when I
all, I
hear
was like
Housework.
10 years old when E.T. came out.
Yeah,
But what does Neil Diamond sing about your heart light? Turn on your heart light.
right.
It's
Yes.
there. It's the same stuff. We get it. We naturally get that kind of stuff. So it is, so even like as a 10-year-old, I was hearing about Heartlight for the first time, but it's always been out there. And regardless of the religion, I mean, it fits in everything. So it's not exclusive of anything. A lot of people of any walk of faith can embrace this type of work. And to me, it is a connection to the source, to the Almighty, whatever way you call that. So, but it's never one thing, it's all things. So there's no one ever excluded. It's never like my way or the highway. It's no, it's our way. And Beck's going to do it her way. I'm going to do it my way. Reagan does it her way. It was funny just this morning, Reagan is nonverbal. She will say a few things periodically that surprises us. And even just this morning, her room is right next to ours, and I could hear her, just have a cough when she woke up. And then she clears a bell. Water, water. And Mark and I are like, I'm like, oh, she needs water. So now Reagan doesn't drink water, a glass of water. She can't reach over for the table. She's like a newborn baby still at 25, so she's totally dependent. But I went right in there with a little sip of water for her. And I'm like, Reagan, what a good job. You're using your verbal skills at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yay. So she still surprises me. And she's still making use of whatever it is that she has. And that wasn't an intuitive thing she sent me. She verbally said, water. So she's using the best of what she can. One of her therapists, traditional therapists, physical therapists said, well, she might only be developmentally like 6 months, but she's got over 20 years experience. So, got to give her that. And it's the truth. So for me, I know that if Reagan can keep working as hard as she is, I can too. And we just take it day by day.
Deb, she really picked the right parents.
Oh, thank you very much. We're very blessed. We're very blessed to be with her, and she's changed my world. Absolutely. And
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you guys had to really, do an overhaul on your whole life and everyday practices to be able to tap into what she was and to take care of her.
yeah, it was sort of a surrender of what you kind of thought things were supposed to be. I think, especially if you grow up sort of traditionally, you think by this point you're supposed to have a house of a certain size and certain vehicles and certain career and a certain path. And I talk a lot about this in my second book, which we'll come back on and talk about sometime, I'm sure, Ignite Calm. But I talk about how it's almost like the minute you surrender something, the universe will find a creative way to still make some of your dreams come true. So it's totally different. So when I let go of my corporate job, which people don't have to do if they don't want to do. They can do this and still be working at the office. There's no problem with that. It's just making sure that you have room to explore this for yourself and your family. It allowed us to be more where we're on the, like, I didn't know I was off the path until I was off the path. And then as we made these different choices, we're like, realized, we are happy, things are good. So, after Reagan was born, we sold our house so I could not have to work in the traditional setting that I did. But then an opportunity came along, business opportunity for me, and I was able to buy another house in an even, to me, more desirable community. So I live in a beautiful lakes region of Maine, and but we still live it so that I take care of Reagan every day. I'm her caregiver. So it's not that I don't have hard work, but I also have room to be a full person, and explore my full heart. And being with her has always been a blessing to me. And I know it's hard. I will not have her forever. It's hard to even imagine that because I've had her so long, but she really has outlived her life expectancy. And anytime she sees a traditional doctor, they're like, well, she's like a senior citizen now. And, and I just say, I appreciate you pointing that out, but, it's up to her. I've spent the past 25 years living in honor of Reagan. I'm not going to stop that if she's no longer on earth. And I think anyone that takes care of people and loves people, think of our grandparents that we've lost, think of our great grandparents, our parents, we love them as much today as we did when they were right by our side. So she will always be a compelling force in my life.
Or our animals too. They get
Absolutely. I'm a crazy cat lady. And I have a children's book called The Dogma of Cats for Kids. And Reagan and I wrote that one summer. We were having a blast. We have a dog one too. But we love animals. We have 3 cats now. And, I have always had a life with cats. And they are amazing. And they're amazing to Reagan. So we've been woken up more than once over the years of a cat who was concerned about Reagan's breathing or positioning or something. So they're amazing.
Woo, lots of chills today.
Yeah.
So, are there some tips that you would share with people that are like, yeah, this sounds great, but this isn't, I won't be able to do this. This couldn't work for me. Are there some like basic things that people could try to get them to, improve their what's the word I'm looking for, but
I think one of the most
confidence.
important things people can do is just have the courage to make different choices. If you're stuck in the rut of something not working, we've all been there, we all know it. Why do we continue to keep doing the same exact thing? So you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to be like, I quit my job, but you can make a plan where you're like, okay, I need to be able to, my goal is to be more time at home so I can support my person, like I said, whether it's your parent, your spouse, or your child, then you start taking little steps in that direction. But we are our own worst enemy. So it's just our fear gets in the way. So I'd encourage people to break from that mold and take the leap. It is really a leap of faith. The only thing that keeps you from living a heart glow life or being an intuitive parent is you haven't yet made the choice to do so. So it is an invocation, a call up to spirit. I'm ready. I am ready. It's funny. I worked with a lot of students over the years, and people think it's kind of like, yeah, right, until they make that declaration, and things will just start really opening up for them, and like, I had no idea.
It's
One of the
attention.
one of the biggest challenges we have, all of us right now, and it's a lot worse now than when I first wrote my book, is the clutter, the chaos, the distractions that are out there. Mark and I were joking about that to this day. It's like, wow, you can really waste a lot of time watching cat videos or whatever, when, we could be reading a nice essay that somebody wrote and that's thought-provoking or doing something different. We have so much mediated reality in front of us. It does take discipline to set that aside. So that I would encourage that. We all love content and we all love to be able to help people learn new things. But being able to find the right sort of diet where that can be in your life. Like, okay, I'm going to limit myself this much. I'm not going to do it before I go to bed because I'm now going to make time for myself. I'm now going to make time to still myself. I'll be honest with you, Becc, I'm a horrible meditator. So where people like want to go with and all that stuff, I cannot stand it. What I love is ecstatic dance. So I just adore it. So I put on stuff that I love, whether it's 80s rock dance music or whether it's something more artistic or whatever, and I move and it helps me. So know that you can clear your aura and align your chakras through dance as easily as sitting and meditating for an hour. So I do encourage people, if they're interested in, speaking, developing mediumship, yeah, you got to sit your butt in the chair and, sit in the power and figure out your way of doing it. There is work involved in development. But when it comes to energetic wellness and subtle energy wellness, that's a lot of fun ways to do it. Nature is a key. We go over that in the book about everything that you can do for this development process is free. So I am definitely not one where people need to pay to do this, do that. Everything is right out your door. A walk in nature, time by the water, connecting with people that you love. It's also knowing when not to connect with certain people. Um, One of the common threads that I found from folks is that sometimes they're allowing their child to make decisions that are actually adult decisions. And those are things that we need to change. It's like, no, parents are parents for a reason. Adults are adults for a reason. And it can be hard to have rules and boundaries, but it's very, very healthy for our families to know, okay, no, at a certain time of night, we all put our phones away. You have to demonstrate it as well. You can't be a hypocrite. Kids know that, they don't relate to that, but know that there are certain healthy boundaries that you can establish that will benefit your family. And it's like, oh no, we're going to go for a walk, all together, family walk. Yep, there's a phone in dad's back pocket if we have an emergency, but no, it's on silent,
Yep.
things like that. But just establishing new boundaries and rules for your family and feeling like you can do that,
Just an appreciation for a sunset. Well, believe it or not, Deb, despite our challenges today, we only have 1 minute left. So, so what is the thought that you really want to leave people with today?
I just want to leave people with the optimism and hope. There's a lot going on in our world right now that's very chaotic, and but that doesn't have to be your heart and your world. And the more aligned we are with our own true essence or with the own light that we have inside of us, that we can radiate out, the world will get better. The world will get better around us. And the more of us
Yep.
that focus on that, we can focus on helping change in a greater way. So focus on yourself, radiate it out, things will get better.
So get a copy of Deb Snyder's book, Intuitive Parenting. Deb, you've had an impact on my life. I hope you've shared that with everybody today. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me on, Becc. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Intuition Unleashed. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. But before you go, we have one little challenge for you. Most of us have sneaky little habits that hold us back and trip us up, so why not take this not at all uncomfortable quiz to find out what you do to derail yourself from achieving your goals and how you can call yourself out on your own BS. So get to know your self-sabotage specialty and take the first step towards getting out of the way of your own success. Just visit https:/becknelson.com/quiz and take the quiz now. That's becknelson.com/quiz, and we can't wait to see your results. As always, we'll be back next week with more Intuition Unleashed. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening.